I had someone ask me the other day, Danielle, what do you do when you don't have the energy or capacity to go on air? When the weight of everything just feels so heavy? What do you do? And my response was, I turn on my microphone because whether it is one person or a couple hundred or several thousand, there are people that rely on someone to tell them the truth. And so, regardless of where I am on any given day, I know that there are people that are feeling worse than I'm feeling. I know that there are people that are sitting in detention centers right now, not knowing if they will ever see freedom again, not knowing if their family even knows where they are. I know that there are people that are being abused by this administration right out in the open, and no one is doing anything to help them or to stop it. So if the least that I can do is turn on a microphone while that is still legal to do, then it doesn't matter if I'm tired or I'm sad or I find myself circling the drain of grief. We push on. That's what we're being called to do. Welcome to the Danielle Moodie Show, dear friends. Let's get into it. So today, friends, welcome to the Danielle Moodie Show. Damnation, I am so glad that you all showed up today. Let's not kid ourselves. It's been a shitty fucking week. It's been really bad. And every day seems to feel and get progressively worse. And it is why I opened up today's quick monologue with saying that, but we persist, we push forward. Because right now, there are people in this country that are living in worse conditions, in worse positions than we are. And they're depending on people like us to be paying attention, to tell the truth, and continue to do so. Right? And if that is all we can do, then that's what we do. And we do it with every bit of energy that we have. Now, some are calling the cancellation of Jimmy Kimmel's show as a canary in the coal mine. And then someone on social media said this: we're like 22 dead canaries in the coal mine at this point. And I concur. The fact is that this should, Colbert is canceling, PBS is canceling, Jimmy Kimmel's canceling, should all be sending shivers down people's spines. Why? Because Colbert and Jimmy Kimmel are rich white men. And when rich white men's voices are being silenced, then everyone should perk up because they're used to the Cassandras like myself that are never listened to because I'm Black, because I'm a woman, because I'm queer. But when you start to see rich, famous white men be silenced, for some, that begins to send off alarms. But I want to put the pieces together as to what is really happening and what's at stake. So, Rolling Stone wrote, Jimmy Kimmel Live pulled indefinitely by ABC over Charlie Kirk comments. Okay. Nextstar's owned and partner television station affiliated with the ABC television network will preempt Jimmy Kimmel Live for the foreseeable future, beginning with tonight's show, the company said in a statement. Nextstar strongly objects to recent comments made by Mr. Kimmel concerning the killing of Charlie Kirk and will replace the show with other programming in its ABC-affiliated markets. Andrew Alford, the president of Nexstar Broadcast Division, called Kimmel's comments offensive and insensitive at a critical time in our national discourse. They don't give a fuck about national discourse, so let's just be real about that. During Kimmel's Monday Night Monologue, the comedian criticized right-wingers for trying to score political points off Kirk's murder after they spent the weekend attempting to blame the left broadly and trans people more specifically for the shooting. Well, before the public knew much, if anything, about the shooter's motives. And this is what he said. And you tell me where the lie is. We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it. Where is the lie? There isn't one, right? Because that is exactly what they are doing. We talked about it this week on the show that Charlie Kirk, Turning Points USA, was funded by a right-wing billionaire because the right felt like they were losing the youth to quote unquote liberal college institutions because, education and being around people who are different from you prompt critical thinking and for you to have a varied perspective on the world. So they needed a new face. They needed a youthful face because all they had on right-wing radio was Rush Limbaugh and these other old, white, angry men. They needed a youthful face, and they found Charlie Kirk. They pushed millions of dollars into Turning Point USA, fed him talking points, had him spread his right-wing agenda, and then place him on college campuses around this country under the guise of debate when it was really indoctrination. Okay? He is not some magnificent king, as some are calling him, that fell from on high with a message that was just deep in his heart. The message was actually deep in his pocket to the tune of $4.7 million. And it's only grown from there. So now that he is gone, there are people, namely, the vice president of the United States that literally slid into his hosting chair before that man was even truly memorialized and had a funeral. J.D. Vance was already in his chair, parading through Trump regime staff to try and commandeer the audience that Charlie Kirk had, the coveted audience that everybody wants, including the Ben Shapiros and the Alex Joneses of the world. So where was what Jimmy Kimmel said wrong? It wasn't. But you see what these white men don't understand is that they're never safe. And you see, Black people been known this. Brown people, queer people been know this, which is that no one is safe in authoritarianism. No one is safe inside of the clutches of white nationalism. And so they fooled themselves into believing that they had this long runway of being able to pop off in the ways that they've had in the past, not knowing that their time was up. And Stephen Colbert's firing and the gutting of PBS and other media outlets should have been for this particular set fucking blaring alarm. But here's the real deal, right? So, in the hours leading up to the decision to pull Kimmel, two sources familiar with the matter, this is being reported from Rolling Stone, senior executives at ABC, its owner Disney, and affiliates convened emergency meetings to figure out how to minimize the damage. Multiple execs felt that Kimmel had not actually said anything over the line. The two sources say, but the threat of the Trump administration retaliation loomed. So I want you to hold on to this as I move into a piece from The Guardian. Court of King Trump, how media barons are bowing to the president to protect key deals. That's what's at stake here, folks, because it's always about the money. Jimmy Kimmel and the rest of them who's left on late night are on borrowed fucking time, because what is at stake is all of these multi-billion-dollar deals that these oligarchs are clamoring for, and only the ones that get Trump's favor and kiss the ring are going to be the ones in line to amass media platforms and consolidate power. The indefinite suspension of Jimmy Kimmel's 22-year run on late night TV is the latest sign of the pressure U.S. media businesses are under to bend to the right-wing views endorsed by Donald Trump or face commercial cancellation. The decision by the Disney-owned ABC followed Kimmel's on-air accusations that Republicans were doing everything they could to score political points for the killing of Charlie Kirk. It came after one of the biggest owners of the TV stations in the U.S., Nexstar, had said it would replace Kimmel's show for the foreseeable future. Nexstar's pay attention to this rapid decision to announce it would replace Kimmel's show came as it attempts to get clearance from the Federal Communications Commission, the FCC, run by a Trump appointee, to buy a rival, Tegna, in a $6.2 billion deal. So do you understand what is happening here? The decision to fire Colbert had nothing to do with anything that Colbert said. It had everything to do with the deal that Paramount was trying to push through the FCC. The FCC is what allows you to get your licensing and what allows basically these mega companies to form what should be fucking antitrust issues happening with all of these big buy-ups that are happening. You need that approval. They are creating these gigantic monopolies that the antitrust laws were created to do. But because you have a fucking thin-skinned grifter in charge of government, they know that all they do is have to fawn and provide favor, and Donald Trump will greenlight their fucking deals. So Colbert was fired because of Paramount and the deal that they were brokering that now was allowed to be pushed through. And Kimmel was fired because of a deal that Nexstar is trying to push through. So for folks that say like, oh, it matters. Oh, look, he won an Emmy over the weekend. They don't give a fuck about any awards. They're trying to consolidate the marketplace to the tune of multi-billions. So a few million that they have to pay out to make him go away to pay out his contract is worth it when you're talking about billions that are going to be brought in. So on top of this deal, a second operator, Sinclair Broadcast Group, which owns more ABC stations than any other conglomerate, took the stance as Nexstar and also said it would run a Kirk tribute in Kimmel's time slot on Friday. So we're also and on top of which, Nexstar has said maybe Kimmel can have his job back if he gives an apology that they're satisfied with, and they are trying to extort him to get him to donate to an organization, Turning Points USA, that is counter to his beliefs. Now, look, everybody cares about money. That's what this capitalist oligarchical machine makes you do. And so I don't know what decision Jimmy Kimmel is going to make as I came on air. there was no word on whether or not he was going to apologize for things that he doesn't need to apologize for, and also going to be extorted by his company in order to donate to an organization that is against his actual belief system in order to keep his job. So, folks, here's where we are. This is a chart that was in The Guardian. Press freedom has been on the decline in the United States. The chart gives you 2021 through 2025 year. Red, very serious in terms of press freedom. Lighter red, difficult. Orange, problematic. Yellow, satisfactory. Green, good. You can see the countries that are listed here. The United States is in the middle, right under Brazil and right above Italy. You can see that in 2021, 2022, and 2023, we were in the satisfactory area. You can see now, 2024, 2025, we are moving into the problematic space. My assumption is that by the time this chart is done again, and we are in 2026, we will be in the difficult, if not very serious space in terms of our press freedom. Because the thing that happens with these firings, it is a signal to begin the self-censoring. It is the signal for people to follow the cue and stay away from politics altogether. Say absolutely nothing. Donald Trump bombs a place. Donald Trump is doing ice scoop ups. Donald Trump is building his own Gestapo. Donald Trump is on the ground doing X, Y, and Z. There are people being kidnapped. You have an audience that is millions of people. And guess what you're going to talk about? I don't know. Maybe who Jennifer Aniston is dating. Maybe you'll talk about like what Cardi B just said. But what they are going to do is make it so that you can't say anything about anyone at any time, which leaves the public completely and totally in the fucking dark. Because not only is this happening with the regular mainstream late night outlets that are supposed to be about comedy and entertainment, we've already seen it happen with MSNBC and the firing of Joy Reid and the firing of Matthew Dowd, which will continue. They won't be presenting anything that is about critical analysis and telling the people what is going on, because everybody will be like, you know what? I need to hold on to this job. And why do I need to hold on to this job? For all of the shit that the Federal Reserve said earlier this week. The economy is about to go into the fucking toilet. The jobless numbers are horrendous. Inflation is on the rise. So what ends up happening is that you, right, as a person with a platform or a person that is working at a network, you're saying, well, what am I supposed to do here? Am I supposed to go out in a blaze of glory with my fist in the air and not be able to provide for myself and my family in these critical economic times? Am I supposed to stand on principle but go hungry and houseless? These are the decisions that authoritarianism forces you to make. So for people that think that we still have free speech here, you are living in a fantasy land. And the other thing that is now keeping me up at night, as if I don't already have a long laundry list that allows me to not sleep on a regular fucking basis, is it is only a matter of time, dear friends, before they come for independent platforms like a YouTube, like a Substack, like a Blue Sky, like these places where we've looked to have soft places to land, because those will be pulled as well. And for people that are independent like me, that make their living off of these independent platforms, you better believe that I am starting to be like, what's next? Because it's only a matter of time before either the algorithm completely sinks me or you get pulled off altogether. This is the reality that people are facing. The article goes on to say this: Sinclair is also urging, so get this, the FCC to deregulate, because of course, which it emphasized on Thursday, saying action needed to be taken to, quote, address control held over local broadcasters by the big national networks. Brendan Carr, chair of the FCC and Donald Trump's bestie, known for his gold lapel pin bust of Donald Trump, had already warned of fines or the loss of broadcast licenses if the show remained on air. So Trump, of course, posted on social media, because he's petty and he's small, celebrating this. I want you to take a listen to J.B. Pritzker and what he said on MSNBC.
As I just said, this is much bigger than a media story. It feels to me, first of all, Brendan Carr went out today, the FCC chair, and basically called out Jimmy Kimmel by name. And then a couple of hours later, he was put on indefinite, hiatus, suspension, whatever you want to call it. Does this feel, it feels to me like obedience in advance. Does it feel to you like that?
It's intimidation, clearly. And this is what we're seeing across the board from the Trump administration. They're using the power of the government to go after businesses, to get them to do things that they need or want, right? Either to pay them, as we have seen, or to fire people, as we have seen. And here we have a comedian. I mean, this is somebody who's on every night, frankly, probably offending somebody every single night.
He may have made fun of you before.
Indeed, he has. And so I just want to say that, we should not be going after people for this. Look, did he get some things wrong? Yeah. I mean, but he is not a commentator, a news anchor. This is somebody who's a comedian, for goodness sakes. And now we've got the Trump administration literally targeting individuals. You saw it with Stephen Colbert. Now you're seeing it with Kimmel. Anybody that's criticizing this administration, they're using the power of government to intimidate companies to fire people.
And so we know that this is happening. And here is Representative Ro Khanna. This administration has initiated the greatest assault on free speech in modern history. I just motioned to subpoena Brendan Carr, FCC, to stop the intimidation of private businesses and the assault on free speech. Congress must wake up from our slumber, assert our power, and do our job.
Chairman, this administration has initiated the largest assault on the First Amendment and free speech in modern history. They're making comedy illegal. Brendan Carr pressured ABC to cancel Jimmy Kimmel, and Disney cancels Jimmy Kimmel. This canceling from an administration that lectured us about cancel culture. That's why today I'm introducing a motion to subpoena Brendan Carr, to bring him in front of this committee, to stop the intimidation of private businesses and to stand up for the First Amendment. Now, it's not just Brendan Carr. Attorney General Pram Bondi is prosecuting hate speech, even though hate speech is constitutionally protected. And even though we've had so many lectures from my friends on the other side of the aisle not to prosecute hate speech. And then what about our vice president, the champion of free speech, as he told us during the campaign? The vice president is telling Americans to snitch on fellow Americans who have offensive posts and to call their employers so they can be fired. And the vice president is threatening to prosecute political organizations that he disagrees with. Look, we are Article 1 of the Constitution. not foot lackeys for Donald Trump and J.D. Vance. It is time that we stand up for our constitutional role to defend the freedoms of Americans. People are tired of us just giving our power to Donald Trump and J.D. Vance. We have an obligation to our Constitution, not to Donald Trump and J.D. Vance as they ride roughshod over the First Amendment. So in the name of all those who are being censored in Washington, D.C. and around the country, in the name of all those who are being intimidated in Washington, D.C. and around the country, in the name of Americans, Republicans, Independents, and Democrats who believe in the First Amendment and free speech, I motion today to subpoena Brendan Carr and to have him explain to the American people why he's bullying private individuals and private businesses.
Look, you want to drag in Brendan Carr so that he can do exactly what Crash Patel did this week on Capitol Hill, which is lie to your face and tell you that, oh, these people were pulled off air for reasons that none of us can see or hear or understand. But it is important to have things on the record and have people have an account of what is going on. And the fact is that is exactly what is going on. They have weaponized the FCC. They have weaponized the Department of Justice. They have weaponized every fucking agency. But if you bend the knee, if you offer bribes, you get a green light. I want you to also take a moment to listen to Max Blumenthal, who is the editor of Gray Zone News. And he breaks down how, in the wake of Charlie Kirk's assassination, the right has fully embraced cancel culture, yet, unlike the left, they're in it to win it.
Out on social media in a vigilante fashion where it's like a site like charliesmurderers.com is doxing thousands and thousands of Americans, not only for celebrating Charlie Kirk's death, but also, minimizing his death or calling him a racist or putting his views in context. And they're losing their jobs. The right wing is playing cancel culture to the extreme, but it's playing to win, unlike the left, which was sort of just trying to enforce a very narrow moral code by getting people canceled or going after, people in the media within their own media organizations and so on. The right is playing to win. They want to fully isolate left-wing dissent from society, and they're exploiting this in a way that raises a lot of questions there's been no full investigation of this shooting yet. Tyler Robinson is not cooperating. I haven't seen the confession. Apparently everyone close to him is cooperating. We don't have the information, but they don't care. They want to ram through this agenda.
That's the point. They want to ram through this agenda that was written very clearly in Project 2025. This is not something that is magically appearing out of thin air. They wrote a 900 fucking page manifesto saying exactly what they would do to each and every goddamn agency. So, Chris Hedges says also that a right-wing campaign to silence criticism and dissent following the murder of Charlie Kirk will be accelerating the consolidation of this police state. Take a listen to him. Hold 1 second, please, because this video doesn't want to play right now. So we will get it for you. Not that one.
You saw that his murder weaponized even before the suspect was apprehended, and the quote-unquote radical left being blamed. I think we've reached a very frightening turning point. We've already seen an assault on civil liberties, on institutions, universities, the media that are tasked with maintaining an open society. That will now be accelerated. I don't take any of this rhetoric lightly. I look at it as three phases. First, we saw those who protested the genocide attacked as anti-Semites, although a significant percentage, 20, 30%, were probably Jewish. That was a way to shut down free speech. Then we saw undocumented workers being targeted and demonized as criminals and all this kind of stuff as a way to build Trump's version of the brown shirts, this rogue paramilitary group, ICE, with all of these detention centers. I mean, the budget is now larger than all federal law enforcement agencies combined, ICE. These detention centers are not going to be exclusively for undocumented workers. And now we're seeing the radical left demonized to shut down individuals and organizations that dissent from our the rapid consolidation of this police state or authoritarian state.
So not only is it a rapid consolidation of media, it is also a rapid consolidation of a police state, so that we are forced to live under fear, under surveillance, and under a one-party rule. What was announced also on JD Vance cosplaying as a podcaster is that they are now going after philanthropic organizations and nonprofit organizations that fund critical groups in this country. They are going to label them as quote unquote Antifa, put them on a terrorist watch list, go after their finances. And if nothing is there, they will plant it. This is what is happening. And I asked a friend today, so been in movement spaces for the longest time, when are we going to focus on a national strike? When are we going to focus on a national boycott? I am not a movement leader, right? I am somebody that reports on and analyzes politics and tries to make sense of it for audiences. There are people who actually run organizations and movements, lead marches and protests. And I said, when are we going to push for a national strike? And he said to me, Danielle, we don't have critical mass yet. There are still people that are too comfortable. They are comfortable with their houses. They are comfortable with their space in this capitalistic country. He said capitalism has made people soft. And he's like, until a critical mass of people lose everything, maybe then there'll be appetite for a national strike, but no one is willing yet to risk their comfort and their safety in order to stop this regime. Folks, I was like, okay, where is my drink? Because by the time everyone has quote unquote lost everything, the troops will already be on your fucking street. The boots will already be on the ground. They're already on the ground in LA. They're already on the ground in Chicago. They're already on the ground in DC. And then when Donald Trump sends the signal, time for martial law, and you're pushed into your homes, and then you're just waiting for the knock at the door to haul your ass off. Will that be when people recognize that, I should have fucking done something? Or what about this? What about the fact that there was legislation that was introduced to give the Secretary of State the ability to pull people's passports? Do you know that in order to get a visa, in order to leave the country, you need to have a passport? Do you know that getting on anybody's terror list and having your passport revoked is a huge flag that then doesn't allow for you to have freedom of movement? Now, that piece of a bill this week was pulled from the larger bill. But if you think that that is not going to be reintroduced, then you are living in a fucking fantasy. And it gives the Secretary of State the full discretion to decide what is a revocable cause, which could be you liking a post on social media, you sharing a news clip. And then you now being labeled as a terror threat. So, what's the goal? Total and complete control of your thoughts, of your movement, of your dissent, all of it. And if you needed more evidence, I'm happy to provide it. Trump brokering deal to hand TikTok over to right-wing billionaires Anderson and Ellison. The TikTok ban wasn't primarily about national security, or I will say it wasn't about national security at all, which is what I said here last year, but rather political control. Trump is pushing to finalize a deal that would hand majority control, which the deal has gone through, of TikTok over to the consortium that includes two of his closest billionaire allies. On Tuesday, the Wall Street Journal reported that under the planned deal, 80% of the stake will be controlled by a group of American investors, while the 20% will remain in Chinese firms. The American companies include the investment firm Silver Lake, the venture capital firm Andreessen Horowitz, and the technology company Oracle. The latter two are controlled by some of Trump's most prolific supporters. Mark Andreessen and his partner Ben Horowitz each donated $2.5 million to Trump's super PAC during the 2024 election. Anderson, who said at the end of 2024 he was spending roughly half his time at Mar-a-Lago, was tapped as an economic advisor to Trump earlier this year, where he helped to recruit staffers to what? Doge. After unleashing a bevy of false claims, Anderson led the charge for Doge to virtually kill the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. You know, the bureau that would protect us from being scammed by corporations, which is now gone, which he long loathed for its investigations into investment firms that do their best to what? Take advantage of the average consumer. Oracle, meanwhile, was founded by Larry Ellison, one of Trump's earliest backers in the Silicon Valley world, who reportedly advised Trump during his efforts to overturn his 2020 election loss. Over the next 5 years, Ellison accumulated enough wealth to briefly overtake Musk as the world's richest person and has used those riches to consolidate control over the media. After taking office in January for his second term, Trump began to champion Ellison as the man to take over TikTok. Do you know how many people are on TikTok? Do you know how TikTok is built to create addiction and to have people get lost into these right-wing holes, or to promote trad wives or the like? It also serves as a way for small businesses to be able to promote their businesses, and it also serves as a place where like-minded people on the left and progressives can share messages, post videos. All of that now is going to be locked under surveillance if, in fact, your messages are seen at all. And it's one of the reasons why I don't know where is safe. Because once you start digging into who owns what and who is buying up what, you realize your life has been owned by these people. Now they're just out in the open. So where are we? I played this video before, and I'm going to play it again, which is talking about America already being an oligarchy. And I think that it's important to hear.
Democracy under threat because of this stuff.
Under threat? Does it exist, Mark? I don't think it exists. It's a veneer. It's the end of the Roman Empire. You have the symbols, the iconography, and the language of a democracy, but internally, corporations and oligarchs have seized all of the levers of power. I looked at this election as a battle between corporatists and oligarchs. Corporatists, the Democrats, they want something very different from oligarchs. Corporatists want stability, they want decorum, the kind of decorum that Obama had or Bush had, or Bush was an idiot, but at least he had some, they could clean him up a little bit. And Biden, whatever his cognitive failings were, because they want stability, especially in terms of trade agreements, because they make investments overseas. Takes a while for a return on a profit. Corporatists want something different from oligarchs. Oligarchs are about chaos. They're about, as Steve Bannon said, deconstructing the administrative state. Why? Because it is a pure form of rentier capitalism. And by that I mean that they make their money by setting up toll booths, Amazon, all of these digital media platforms. It's not about producing goods. And the more that the state is deconstructed, that's why they want to abolish the Department of Education, everything that we need as a civil society becomes privatized. And you see it in, I wrote a book called America, the Farewell Tour, begins in Scranton, Pennsylvania, where everything, the sewer system's privatized, the parking authority is privatized, the electricity is privatized, and of course they've jacked up the rates. And the services are not very good. And they want to privatize the post office so we can have a dysfunctional post office like the UK, which is privatized. And so that's what oligarchs want. And the oligarchs have won. They won. And but that's what this battle was about in terms of if we strip away its the kind of trivia or the cultural differences between the two parties. That at its core was what it's about. And so we have, as you point out, we have now an oligarchic system. But as Aristotle wrote, once you create an oligarchic system with those kinds of inequities, then your only two choices are tyranny or revolution.
The only two choices are tyranny or revolution. And right now, it doesn't seem like America has an appetite for revolution. And so the question is, how long will people stomach tyranny? How long will people continue to go about their day-to-day lives thinking that everything is an arm's length away and that this won't meet them at their doorstep? No one is safe. If a millionaire, famous white comedian isn't safe from losing his job and being targeted by the administration, you are not safe. And then, lastly, there is this, a video that I came across today that spoke about the stages of authoritarianism. And he's a history guy on social media, Trevor's History. And he said there are 7 stages of authoritarianism. And this week, America hit stage 6.
Welcome to stage 6. Professor Poutine here, time for Mysteries Histories. Thanks to what Stephen Miller and J.D. Vance said the other day, the United States is now firmly in the 6th stage of the 7 steps towards authoritarianism, according to historians. Step 1 is delegitimizing people's faith in certain institutions like the courts, the media, elections.
Places. They're not losing 2%, 1%, which, by the way, is too much. An election could be won or lost with that. They're losing 30 and 40%. It's a fraud.
Can you give us a question?
Don't be.
I'm not going to give you.
I'm not going to give you a question.
Can you stay categorical?
You are fake news,
Sir.
Everything out. Take all of the dead people that voted, and there were thousands of them, by the way. We have lists of, obituaries and stuff. If you take the illegal immigrants that voted, if you take this, if the Indians that got paid to vote in different places.
Stage 2 is polarizing and scapegoating individuals.
In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets. They're bringing drugs. They're bringing crime. They're rapists.
Step 3 is bending the laws to punish people that dissent against the government.
Bottom line here, what Donald Trump is doing with all of these lawsuits is he is underscoring that there is reputational risk to coming up against me, and there is deep financial risk. You better have some deep pockets if you take a position that of which I'm on the other side. And
Stage 4 is weaponizing state power, like the National Guard, the military, the Department of Justice.
He said St. Louis is in big trouble.
That's what President Trump said on Tuesday after fielding questions about which cities he may send the National Guard into next.
Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem posting these videos from ICE arrests in Elgin this morning, saying she's on the ground to make it clear the department isn't backing down.
Stage 5 is curtailing freedoms, in particular freedom of speech.
And what the penalty is going to be, if you burn a flag, you get 1 year in jail.
We will absolutely target you, go after you.
Tell your allies that hate speech is free speech. We'll probably go after people like you.
Stage 6, eliminate the opposition.
With God as my witness, we are going to use every resource we have at the Department of Justice, Homeland Security, and throughout this government to identify, disrupt, dismantle, and destroy these networks and make America safe again for the American people.
It is a statistical fact that most of the lunatics in American politics today are proud members of the far left.
And stage 7 is consolidating power in a one-party rule, controlling the executive, legislative, judicial, and the press. Folks, spread this video with as many people as possible because we are only one step away from authoritarianism in the United States.
So, there you have it. That's where we are. We're not voting our way out of this. We're not going to self-care our way out of this, as much as I believe in self-care and know that it is necessary so that we all don't lose our minds. But time is ticking. And it is not on our side. Charlie Kirk's death accelerated their plans. I said over the summer that Project 2025 was already 47%, nearly 50% operationalized. I believe now in September, it's got to be well over 50% operationalized. And number 7, for people that are asking in the chat, what is number 7? Full-on authoritarianism, consolidation of power, and martial law. It is owning the legislative branch, the executive branch, and the judicial branch. It is being judge, jury, and executioner over the 330 million people that live in this country. We are there. We're not sliding there. We're not accelerating there. We have arrived. And the question that I continue to ask is, what does America have appetite for? Is it tyranny or is it revolution? Because the tyranny is already here. And the illusion that we still have some of our basic civil liberties is just that, an illusion. They are working on legislation to stop your freedom of movement. And some will shrug and be like, well, a majority of Americans don't hold passports anyway. That is true. But for those people that do, kind of problematic. If you wanted to get a passport, you're not going to be able to, depending on your political views. There's a quote that's going around that says that at some point, silence becomes betrayal. What we need to understand is that there is no safety in our silence. There is only safety in collective power. Do what you can, where you are, with what you have, and with who you're with. Because if we don't get our act together, it is a fucking wrap. And it is already starting to feel like that right now. Everywhere I look, every single day, every single headline, every single time that I turn on this microphone, I don't know if today is the last day that I'm going to have the ability to speak out and speak up. That is not me being hyperbolic. That is me reading the fucking room. For those in your lives that tell you that you don't need a contingency plan, all will be fine, like you don't need to figure things out, like we'll just wait this out, understand they're not paying attention. And you can't wait to drag people along. We got to fight, we got to prepare, and we need contingency plans. That's where we are. That's what it looks like. Some will be able to get out. Others will not. Some will lose their lives. Others will lose their voice, lose their living. This is where we are. And the question is, what side of this do you want to be on? Folks, before I get out of here today, please do like, comment, and subscribe. I am trying to grow this audience while I still can to 40,000 followers. So do like, comment, and subscribe. I keep all of my content free, but I want to shout out all of those that do send over a few coins that allow me to create the kind of content that you all deserve. Susan, as always, thank you so very much for your generosity. Trash Panda, again, always thank you so much. Beans, Progressive African American, appreciate you. Eternal Energy, thank you so much. Be Best, thank you so much for your support. Please do, when this video goes up, which will be in 1 second after I hit end, please do share across your platforms, use your voice, push out these messages, connect with community, do what you can where you are with what you have. That is all that we can do. Tomorrow, just as a programming note, dear friends, I am going to do a solo live show at 12 p.m. Wajahat is traveling. We may end up doing something later in the afternoon, but I will do a show tomorrow at noon. It will not be democracy-ish. It will just be me going live, covering up what has happened in the week. So I will see you guys tomorrow at noon. As always, power to the people, and to all the people power. Get woke, stay sane, and in these extraordinarily dangerous times, dear friends, do stay safe. I will see you back here tomorrow, 12 p.m. Eastern. Be well.